Okay. वासुदेवेन्द्र योगेन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधो विधीयते नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनं नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्मं नमाम्यहम् साधनचतुष्टया सम्पन्ना अधिकारिणां मोक्षसाधनभूतं तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारं वक्ष्यामः। साधनचतुष्टयं किं नित्य अनित्यवस्तुविवेकः इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः समाधिषट्कसम्पत्तिः मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति नित्य अनित्यवस्तुविवेकः कः नित्यवस्तुविवेकं ब्रह्म तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वम् अनित्यम् अयमेव नित्य अनित्यवस्तुविवेकः।
Very good.
विरागः कः इह स्वर्गभोगेषु इच्छाराहित्यम् इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः इह स्वर्गभोगेषु इच्छाराहित्यम्।
Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. We will start from here. We have seen in the previous classes, Vairagyam is fundamentally necessary for mental peace. In fact, if you have to pick up anything as important and essential, which directly influences the mental stability, gives mental peace, is how much Vairagyam a person is established in. I have said before, Vairagyam is not something unknown to us. It is not that after studying Vedanta or any of the philosophical studies or having a very deep thinking nature, etc., it's not that after that one develops Vairagyam. As much as Rag is inherent in a person, naturally there in us, Raga and Dvesha, so much also the naturalness to leave things, drop things is there with us. But the difference is that most often we drop things without discerning them. So that is what we said when instinctively we drop things out of impulses or because they are difficult, etc. That is what we said is not Vairagyam. So the capacity to leave things after discernment is also there in human beings. It is also available to us. And this is what we have been seeing is actually the more a person is established in it, means you have consciously learned the capacity to discover your mental peace by giving up things out of discernment which are futile or redundant or useless or non-essential or wrong thinking, wrong conclusions, incomplete thinking, incomplete associations, wrong associations, etc. कुछ भी कारण हो, whatever be the reason. When a person has discovered in themselves their capacity to draw back their peace, mental stability, mental balance. That drawing back, returning back, coming back to its peaceful state. One of the most essential ingredients and fundamental is the capacity to have Vairagyam. We said opposite of Vairagyam or lack of Vairagyam would mean that the person has strong raga and dvesha, is held by, is victimized by, or is the rag and dvesh are powerful enough, and when the raga dvesh unites with the egoism in a person, ahankar in a person, this makes the person very disturbed, because fundamentally rag and dvesh cannot be kept fulfilled all the time for everyone. Common sense, there is no big knowledge here. Common sense is nobody can fulfill, nobody's raga dvesha can be kept fulfilled every time. Means all our rag and dvesh cannot be fulfilled and compounded with the people around us. If each one is trying to fulfill their raga dvesh, it's just impossible probability that everybody's raga dvesh is going to be fulfilled. So there will be at every point some proportion of people around us who are going to be disturbed here and there, now and then, including us. So raga dvesh is the seed of disturbance. This seed gets stronger when it gets attached to ahankar in a person. That disturbance, I said, opposite of it is Vairagyam, means my capacity to give up my raga dvesh at my will with discernment instantly brings the peace. You recover the peace. You discover the freedom. Shastra gives us a technique to do that. And this is a fairly elaborate topic, has multiple layers in it. And I am now presuming that all of us have got used to going into the level of depth that I have so far taken with Viveka. So I'm going to go into this in their layers that are immediately applicable, at the same time are not very often discussed. Pratipaksha Bhavana is the technique Shastra gives us. The name of the technique is, the name of application is Pratipaksha Bhavana. Bhavana basically means thought process here. A thought process with which you are united. It almost stems into emotion. But bhavana is something where there is a combination of emotion and conviction. In English, I can't come up with a word parallel to bhavana. So I would stick to bhavana as bhavana. Bhavana is not emotion as is translated. Not just emotion. Bhavana comes up when there is a combination of an intellectual conviction and it is supported by the mind. So the mind feels the thinking. There is a unison of the feeling and the thought conviction. Word bhavna has most often been used in our scriptures when it's related to Ishvara or something higher than us. You know, Ishwar, parents, अपने से बड़े, गुरु एक्सेट्रा, जो हमसे बड़े हैं, और शास्त्र में 3 ही चीजें हमसे बड़ी बताई गई हैं. ईश्वर, हमारे माँ बाप, पेरेंट्स, हमारा गुरु. These are the 3 where you have the association of bhavana. When it comes to our children or something lower than us, emotion may be similar felt. There is an affection, there is a bond, but the word bhavana is not used there. So you see there's a distinction of the category of emotion. Bhavana is a development which comes with seeing something at a higher pedestal, at a higher level. Pratipaksha bhavana means we are invoking a thought process in which you also are convinced about, so you feel that conviction. You're one with that conviction. That is called bhavana. Keep it aside. It's just simply put, for those who are wanting further simplification, simply put, it's a thought process. That's all. Bhavana is a thought process. For those who like the analysis of it, it is a thought process which combines conviction with your emotion. Pratipaksha is the main technique, comprising of two words, paksha, and preceded by the prefix prati. Paksha is the main word. Paksha means viewpoint, point of view. किसी का पक्ष ये है, किस side, someone's point of view, or one point of view. Paksh hai ye. Pratipaksh means there are a few meanings to it which sometimes are contradictory. We are first going to take up to mean paksh को जो रखा गया है, point जो रखा गया है, उसको counter करने के लिए another point that has been put up. So when there is an argument, when there is this, these are from the standpoint of debates and arguments, Nyaya school, supposing. When there is a point put up, to counter that point, there is another point put up. So another side, another viewpoint becomes pratipaksha with reference to that paksha. Paksha here for us is what Shastra has said, what scriptures tell us. And in specific here, we are studying, say, Vedanta. Vedanta is a thinking development of thought for one's discovery of one's own nature. I'm calling it a spiritual path. Paksha here means all things that scriptures put to us which are beneficial for us for unfoldment of our nature. That which is beneficial for us. So Paksha here refers to Shastriya standpoint, a Shastric standpoint. Whatever Shastra is telling us is beneficial for us, that is called Paksha. This Paksha, very often in our pursuit to understand it, we have our own thinking and reasoning that counters it. I'll give a simple example. One of my first learnings in life was of Brahma Muhurta. Very early, as a very small child, one of my first learnings I remember distinctly is being emphasized upon getting up between 4:30. Before 6 o'clock, you should be up and ready and engage in whatever practice or do some. But as a child, you don't know what practice, nothing, but you are emphasized to get up before the sun rises. I asked, why? Because every child likes to sleep late. So, but naturally you want to sleep, aram se. That's swabhavik. It's natural that you want to linger in your bed. You want to sleep a little longer. But you are emphasized against your natural grain of joy at that point. Your natural grain of pleasure says, thoda aaram chahiye, thoda sone do na. As a child, 3, 4, 5-year-old will always argue back, let me sleep a little longer. That Ksha is get up before sunrise. But my mind would say, our minds would counter it to say, why? Why should I get up before sunrise? Kya fayda? And then whatever your parents tell you, and then you put up, because you want to continue to sleep, you counter their reasoning every time they give you a reason. And they cannot give you the entire reason that the adult can understand. So they will make up some stories or some justification. They'll do some roundabout to get you to, get up. But you are also equally smart as a child. So you will also keep countering it. So this is paksha. And there is a counter of it, an argument that comes up, which is actually a pratipaksha. But the nature of that pratipaksha is such that you are justifying your own self. Means तुम पक्ष को एक opposite argument दे रहे हो. You are giving a contrary argument. Now this contrary argument capacity to give yourself is actually truly not pratipaksh, but it is what we say is vitarka. I have used 3 words so far: paksha, pratipaksha, and I am bringing a third word, vitarka. Paksha and pratipaksha. Paksha means point of view. Pratipaksha means counterpoint of view. Vitarka means tarka is logic, reason. Tarka itself means correct logic, correct reason, and that is actually Shastra's paksha. Tarka is paksh. Tarka itself can be of 2 kinds, vitark and kutark. Vitark and kutark. So, paksha is tarka. Tarka means logic, reason, point of view, correct point of view, correct logic, correct standpoint. The right standpoint is paksha based on tarka, which is correct. But in order to prevent following it, or just our own, maybe sincerely also, but lacking the capacity to have a logical thinking process, we bring up counter arguments. Our minds counter it. That countering it is vitarka. And sometimes our reasoning is actually just talking. There is no reasoning there. It's just countering for the sake of countering and not for the sake of understanding. That is kutarka. Absolutely argument based, and most often what you find in heedless debates. एक बंदा कुछ कह रहा है, दूसरा बस अपने ईगो से अपनी बात को हाँ करने के लिए कुछ भी बोलता रहता है. That is kutark. Shastra is not ever going to touch upon kutark. You can't talk to a person who's using kutark. Means he's justifying his own point of view for whatever, and there will never be answers to kutark because they are not logical questions. They're not systematically presented. They're not following a logical process of thought. So kutark is only just saying something. Like, for example, okay, we will study that, say, Earth rotates and revolves around the sun. Why does it rotate? Then, say, if it's serious, somebody's answering it. From there, another question. That why wala question very often, just for the sake of asking, which will have no answer to it. Something like that. That will be kutark. But vitark is not so opposite. It's not with an intention of not wanting to follow, but it has in it the capacity of withholding one from following it. Vitark means I'm presenting something which I am not really ready to follow. So my mind gets caught up as if it is asking or as if it wants to know, but fundamentally it is only bringing up logic and reason to not follow. In my example, I will say my whoever the elders have said, no, before sunrise you should get up because you should pray to sun when it gets up, supposing after having a bath. And I'll say, Are sun to stays the whole day. I can pray whenever I get up. What is the logic? Then they'll say, okay, now Sandhya time. Sandhya time, what has, so there'll be no answers to it. Remember one of our first classes we said, Veda, entire Veda is a praman for something that your senses cannot present to you. Keeping that in mind, Shastra gives us paksha, which is actually not always going to be verifiable by our experience, sensory experience. So what really happens is there are a lot of things that are said there which almost become like you will not know the reason why to follow, but you are still told to follow it because they are good for you. I may not know why 4 to 6 is a good time for me to get up and do whatever. I may not understand it for the rest of my life. My entire life, I may not know the reason. Yet, the Shastra will say that is the only way later on when you will study the gunas, that is the only way you sustain your sattvic gun. Yep. Capacity to think clearly is best manifest at that time. If they give me this reason, my mind will ask me, why is it only at 4 to 6? Why is it that there is this capacity only between 4 and 6? Why is it that if I'm made up of the 3 gunas, why can they not be expressed at another time? Now, there'll be so many reasons that will not be able to come, but my mind will get caught up in it and will say that 4 to 6 cannot be sufficient. They'll say, unless you tell me the reason, I will not get up. Now, Vitark Badhane Pratipaksha Bhavanam is a yoga sutra. I told you in the last class, Pratipaksha Bhavana is a very specific technique that has been mentioned in the yoga school of thought, which Vedanta is only borrowing. I am first going to speak of it from the yoga school so that we understand very clearly what is Pratipaksha Bhav. Then we will come to Vedanta. In the sutra, it is said, Vitark Badhane. अपने वितर्क को बांधने के लिए, रोकने के लिए, controlling it, managing it, बांधने के लिए is the right word, means अपने फैल ना जाए तुम्हारी वितर्क की capacity, means how I just gave the example, one question will lead to another, then to another, but they're all vitark, they're not really bringing you to the point of answering and following. They will just go on multiplying themselves, and you can spend the whole life saying I'm waiting for the right answer and then I will start following it, which I did for many years. I said till someone tells me what is the right answer, I will get up what is natural to my body, but the thought never went out of your system. They have said it is correct. They said your sattvic content increases or at least sustains itself. It nourishes it. Whatever sattva you hold, it gets nourished at that point. Now all these thoughts, countering it is, why not? Let me sleep today. How does it, I had such a hard day yesterday, especially when you're a working person and you know how much that 5 minutes sleep. Oh, as a child, of course, going to school, and you know the importance of that 5 minute extra. Even if you had your full 8 hours, that 5 minute extra has an extra pleasure, especially when winters are there. Now, everything that your mind brings up at that point to justify. Okay, tomorrow I will do it. उसको बांधने के लिए what you will have to come up as a counter reason to control the vitark in you is called pratipaksha. Whenever your mind brings up these logical fallacies, vitark is actually a fallacy, a thinking fallacy. Kutark is absolutely incorrect. There is no talking over there. But vitark is not something which is not correctable. Vitark can be corrected with proper reasoning. So your mind's capacity to counter the reasoning that you yourself, your mind is projecting as vitark and immediately balancing it with correct thought, with the correct reasoning, that processing is called pratipaksha bhavana. Is it clear? I'll repeat it once more in case someone has missed it or has joined late. Paksha means presenting Shastriya point of view. Pratipaksha means between these two comes vitarka. Vitarka is that thinking in me which comes up against paksha. Paksha is equal to tarka, correct thinking. But मेरे अंदर एक आवाज आती रहती है, लॉजिकल लगती है, माइंड जस्टिफाई करता है. In future, when you read more and you understand, there are many examples. You will see Arjuna as a beautiful example of this. But in your habit and its correction, where is its immediate application? The habits that we want to correct. Habits that we want to correct. Say, supposing one habit is, I want to start exercising, but we all know the initial troubles of it. When you want to start exercise, especially after lockdown and you've had a nice interior, and now suddenly you have to make up your mind to say, okay, I will start going out for my jogs or my walks or start my yoga, start doing blah, blah, blah. And suddenly our mind says, नहीं अभी तो बहुत अभी भी virus का डर है अभी तो let me wait, hold on for another month, it doesn't matter, so many months have gone, at least I'm being careful, I'm taking cautions. Now what is happening? You know that you are to start your exercise, you have decided, but simultaneously there is such wonderful reasoning and justification that you almost are tempted to yield to it because they're not wrong. Their mind कहता है अभी भी है ना, अभी भी तो है, तो of course it's still there, very much there. Then you say, no, I will wear a mask. Then there will be studies that will say when you jog and you exercise with your mask, it's more harmful for you. So your mind will say, wait, it's okay, let me do it at home only. So where has it started from? My 2-kilometer walk every day has started reducing to say, okay, a little time, and then it's reduced for at least at home I will start. Okay, let me first start with all this is vitark. It's presenting itself as very correct reasoning. You can follow that also because it's not wrong. Yes, I can decide to postpone my exercise. Okay, fine. But that I need to exercise cannot be debated upon. Now, vitark को रोकने के लिए, which means I have to come up with more accurate a logic than what my mind is presenting to me to control this thinking process of coronavirus to hai. Now what can be the counter of this logic? You'll have to, you cannot deny coronavirus to hai. So now you have to talk to your mind. For me, the most beautiful part of spiritual life is self-talk. The amount of self-talk that you do to yourself is actually, you really realize you need no other company because you're so busy talking to your own self. Why? Because now to get my mind to offset all this thinking. I have to start a conversation like I would start a conversation with any friend of mine. And I will say, it's okay, yaar, chota rasta le lo, I'll have to start winding up my mind's thinking to say it is correct to just start. That's it. Vitarka badhane, to harness is the right word, to harness this vitarkinas, which prevents us from following paksha bhav. That specific technique is called pratipaksha bhavana. The counter logic that we present to our own vitarka. And from here, I am going to bring up go a further layer deep into understanding it from the standpoint of trying to show. What can you see? Lost everything. Can you see the printed portion?
Yes, Deepti, it is visible.
Okay, wonderful. So, you see, in Yoga Sutra, I'm presenting what is called Paksha. Okay? Because this is a Yoga Sutra. So, we are coming first to Yoga Sutras. This is Yoga Sutra, this is the second chapter, and second chapter is the Sadhana chapter, practices. In the Sadhana chapter, starting from 29th verse, it is first talking of the 8 parts of the yoga, 8 limbs of yoga, which is very popular. We all know that. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. These are the 8 limbs of yoga school. Purpose of yoga is also your mental purification disciplines up to the point of up to the point of samadhi. Now, yoga defines what is before, okay, I'm rephrasing this. What has got understood as yoga in normal terms is only the asana part, exercise, physical exercise. What has become very popular in the world is yoga has got associated with only asanas. Asan karna means all kinds of varieties of asanas. If there is someone more serious, a yogic student, they go into combining it with breathing. But truly speaking, before yoga has advocated asana, there are 2 previous steps that it talks of. Yamas and niyamas. Yama and niyama are controls. Different controls. What is yama? It defines here ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, yamaha. What is yama? Yama is ahimsa, non-killing, non-violence. Satya, truthfulness. Asteya, non-stealing. Brahmacharya, here it says continence, but brahmacharya has a very wider meaning. It means sense control in this context. Aparigraha. Aparigraha means collecting, not hoarding, you know, receiving only what is necessary, not yearning for more and more, kind of a thing. These are called yamas. Then you see further what is the qualification. Jati, Desha, Kala, Samay, Anvachinnaha, Sarvabhauma, Mahavratam. To say, these unbroken by time, place, purpose, caste are the universal great vows. Okay? What are these? Practices like non-killing, non-stealing, chastity, non-receiving, etc. to be practiced by everyone, irrespective of nation, country, position, or time and place. That is the great vow. Means abiding in your life by these virtues or values. That taking that vow to live with these values is called yama. This is first step. Second step is niyama. Certain niyam we all know, disciplines. What are these? Shaucha, santosha, tapaha, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhana. Dhanani is plural. Niyamaha. These are the niyamas. What is it? Shaucha, internal and external purification. Cleanliness. Internal means mental. Even internal means your digestive tract, your respiratory tract. So when you do all the pranayama, means your lungs have open alveoli and your digestive tract is not full of toxins, etc. So processing, and they have a lot of practices for it beforehand, which means you keep your food disciplined, so that only then will your digestive tract be disciplined. Now supposing I eat mozzarella cheese and cheddar cheese every day, and you've understood the rest of it, and all that. If I eat that every day, and along with it in the all-purpose flour or the maida, white flour, if you take it with white flour and you have it every day, certainly your digestive tract cannot be clean inside. Or you are full of, your food is very highly, I'm using the word infested, I'm sorry, because I can't think of another word, but it is full of oil and a lot of garlic, and not once in a while, every meal. Now your digestive tract cannot be said as clean. So shaucha did not just mean keeping external environment clean. It is definitely referring to your body cleanliness also, and not just the external body cleanliness, but organ cleanliness. So when shaucha is a value, if it is kept at a society level, because these were kept alive and people followed all this, so you found even things like pollution and everything was minimized, because if you have to maintain shaucham, then you are going to take care of a lot of lifestyle habits of yours, which will not increase to external dirt also. So shaucha was a niyama. And you see how, if you start thinking on this, see, I'm just taking it as an overall class, but when you start thinking on it, you will see how much life gets impacted just by one sentence, which is shaucha. It's a word, not even a sentence. Shaucha is a niyam. Yama is a vow. Niyamas is disciplines. Those disciplines which are at everyday life. Santosha, contentment. Contentment means with whatever work I am generating, I can do in my personality traits, whatever I'm doing it, I'm content with whatever comes from there. Tapaha. Tapas means I am ready to put myself into a mode of, say, hard work, austerity, of I'm ready to go beyond my comfort zone. I'm ready to put my best beyond my comfort zone. Tapas is many, many layers of tapas some other time. Swadhyaya has a very definite meaning. Technically, it meant studying every day your own Veda Shakha, because everybody had their own shakhas. But now, in a general, because all that is gone, in a general sense, it means keeping your habit of studying something which is related to not just your direct entertainment, but something from which you learn, something that adds to your learning. So you're not just reading something for the sake of enjoyment and entertainment, but you're reading, taking out a time to read something which actually is helpful for your learning. I'm repeating myself. Swadhyaya is a very technical word. Swa-adhyaya. Reading about one's own shakha or one's own nature. Anything that contributes towards that. Swadhyaya. Ishvara pranidhana. And remembering Ishvara. Surrendering to Ishvara. Or abiding in connection with Ishvara. Offering to Ishvara. Say if you're doing any work and you offer it, etc. Now these are what are called as niyamas. Now after this, the definition I typed, see the definition that comes here. So see the verse 32, verse number 31 and verse 30 of the Yoga Sutra. Verse 30 gave us yamas. 31 said unconditionally to be followed. 32 gave us niyamas. 33 says whatever prevents us from following this, vitarka ko बांधने के लिए, whatever we do is pratipaksha bhavana. Apne vitark means what now? Now if you see it in this context, all the yamas and niyamas that I have given to me, and when my mind starts justifying its non-abidance, the reasonings that I come up with, when I start doing that, that is vitarka. Usko बांधने के लिए is the technique called pratipaksha. The translation is fairly accurate here. I have always maintained I don't always follow the translations of the references that I take. Wherever they are right, I try and keep it as is. So this is to obstruct thoughts which are inimical to yoga. Now here yoga you understand fully as the yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, samadhi. All the steps. That yoga, slash it as an alternative now you can use. When it comes to Vedanta, it will become, say, just a balance of mind. For sake of balance of mind, to obstruct thoughts which are inimical, vitarka badhane, pratipaksha, contrary thoughts will be brought. So, paksha is logical presentation of the Shastra. Pratipaksha means furthering that, you have to come up with very accurate argument which will counter the vitarka. So you find your mind has to get very agile. That's why we say all all practices, when one begins to bring these values in life, you realize it's a lot of agility of your mind, alertness of yourself inside, which contributes to your growth. So when the minute I'm told, say, get up at 4:30 at your best, whatever you can, for some time at least in life, and my mind will say, how does it matter? No, padna hi to hai. I can always study later also. Sattvic content, what is sattvic content? It is as long as I don't do anything wrong, I'm still going to, I can bring up with a lot of instantly my mind must come up with some logic which is powerful enough to quieten my vitarka in my mind. And Shastra, I have always said, koi bhi Shastra le lo, uski uniqueness hai, and I'm talking about Bharatiya Shastra, uniqueness hai that they do not leave us ambiguous. The next verse is giving us the example of it. What will be called Pratipaksha? He says, Vitarka. What is Vitarka? Himsadayaha. Himsa Adi. So what was the yamas and niyamas? Ahimsa, asteya, santosha, whatever these are. Uska opposite, when my mind wants to follow, I start justifying. Himsadayaha, the obstructions to yoga are killing, etc. Means not following those values is obstruction to yoga. / if you follow the opposite values, it results in disturbance. When it results in disturbance, that is what we said is Vairagyam, means bringing the peace of mind back. Himsa dayaha is vitarka. Whether committed, krita. Whether you acted, kalya. Krita means kardiya. Karita. Karita means you caused it. You means caused someone else to do it. You asked someone else to do this. Anumodita. Anumodita means, or you approved someone doing something wrong. You did not do it yourself. You did not ask another to do it. But when someone else was doing it, so half the time when they say, if you have not resisted the wrong, then you've almost contributed to the wrong. So you've approved it. What? Either through, whatever be the reason, either because of lobh, greed, krodh, anger, moh means delusion, purvaka means preceded by, means moha is delusion, here they have translated as ignorance. Purvaka, before, karne ke pehle, whether you had greed in the system or you had jealousy, you had anger, you had anything, that made you do what is not to be done. Whether, further, it doesn't matter the intensity. Mridu, madhya, adhimatra. Mridu means thoda sa hi kyun na kiya. Madhya means in between, little more. Adhimatra, severe, extreme. Massacre. I killed an ant. I killed mosquitoes. I killed just because dengue's there and the thing, so mujhe na ho jaye karke baitha to, and this is much better when it is someone else's cheek. Oh, I was only killing the mosquito on your cheek, that kind of a thing. Mridu, madhya means pest control. I'm not saying we will not do all this. We will still continue to do this. There are counters to it, but here we are just talking in a very, as is presented, so that we can understand it clearly. The context in which it is said. There will be adaptations to each one their own. But to the extent we are violating it, to that an extent, it says here, slight, middling or great, you bring to your memory at that time, you remind yourself that the result of all that I am doing is dukkha, ajnana, anantaphala, immeasurable. So it seems I'm doing something less. I'm just about to slip into, doing something that is not in part of yama and niyama. But the minute I do that, I bring up to my memory the repercussions of those actions. And the repercussions of those actions are that it results in innumerable, ananta dukh. So whether I have done a small act of omission or a fair amount or extreme amount, omission, which I should not have done, which I should have done and did not do, and commission, which I should not have done, and I did it, this brings immense misery in the future. If I remember before, he says, पूर्वका, करने के पहले अगर मैंने याद कर लिया कि इसका रिजल्ट क्या होगा, इसका फल क्या होगा, instantly my mind will drop its value. Instantly I will be aware that at this point I need to control the dengue, but it is not going to be priceless. It is not that I am only controlling dengue, I am also doing something along with it. My killing the mosquito is not only controlling dengue, necessary, yes, to control dengue, but at the same time I am killing. So both things are happening. I may prevent dengue, but I have also killed another life form. I must at least remember that no action goes without results. So if I even remember this kind of a remembrance, logic, argument, this is going to be resulting in ananta dukkha plus ajnana. At this stage, I don't expect you to understand the gravity of ajnana, but ajnana is the cause, Shastra says in time as we move ahead in the text also. Ajnana is the very root cause of all suffering in life. Every bit of suffering, anyone's, everywhere, and not something which is not avoidable. But Gyan is the only measure for it. But between Gyan and Agyan, this whole practice session in between, it's a long life of abiding values. So yoga says this is the method of pratipaksh, thinking the contrary. So when my impulse is to give in to something which is not yama or niyama, means any of these values, when I want to give them up, means not follow them, for something that I see instantly, what can put a brake to me at that time, means work as a brake in my mind, is the counter of it. And the counter logic, thinking the contrary, that thinking the contrary is that it is going to result in misery at some, should I do it or not do it? So at least I will be ready to know that when contrary results come in life, I am ready to understand that I have followed karmas. This is karma school. Yoga is talking of control at the level of stopping yourself from doing something in karma, because thought is also karma. Am I so far? Is it too much or should I continue? Can I continue 2 more minutes? Yeah? Okay. What we have studied so far, we've tried to understand is from the yoga school. Because Pratipaksha is a technique given in the yoga school to counter our impulsive nature detrimental to the following of yoga. What is yoga? Yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, all of them, all the steps. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyana, then samadhi. So all of it is actually yoga school. Yoga, practice of yoga. Mere asana is not practice of yoga. Therefore, in the pursuit of yama and niyama, the Shastra gives us what you can also understand, how to practice it by bringing your understanding of the higher values, give reasoning and logic that are rooted in truth to counter the mind's fantasies and fancies and raga and dvesha and all this. Now, supposing in my first example today, when I'm told get up at 4 o'clock, say, and okay, 4:35, I had lenient, liberal upbringing, so I was allowed up to 5:15. But that was my last, they said. Not a minute later to 5:15. So from 4 to 5:15, they gave me a scope. Up to that, but you have to get up latest so that I still have 45 minutes left with me. 5:15 was my last call. Now, and I was given time. You can take 1 year, you can take 2 years. But within that time, you have to bring your habit to come to closer to 4. May not be 4, they said to me. Don't make it 4, but bring it closer. From 5:15, don't leave it at 5:15 the rest of your life. Bring it closer to 5, bring it closer, as close as you can get. Now, what is the pratipaksha that you follow at that point when that 5-minute thought comes up in your mind again? When you start reflecting on the values, hard work that you put in for your abidance, it's not asan. You ask any of these, forget about all these spiritual values. My favorite example always has been when there are Miss Worlds and Miss Universe contests or one of those anything that people want to pursue. How much tapas, how much effort they put in. So much discipline they put in over there. That level of discipline, supposing they counter it by saying, let me just go on eating. On one hand, you're putting a lot of effort. On the other hand, you're countering that effort by saying, let me just indulge. Now, when he says, let me just indulge in food, on one hand, you're preparing to win the pageant. On the other hand, you are just frittering it away by indulging in what is not pageant worthy, winning the crown worthy kind of a thing. Now, pratipakshas, you recall at that time and say, all my effort to do what I want will become worthless. So I'm actually not gaining what I want to gain. So to my mind, it would be, if I want to abide in higher values of life, then every day my slipping away will only make it more difficult tomorrow. So the earlier I discipline myself, better it is. I may take 1 day off, 5 days off. It's okay. That's all is very beautiful because Hinduism and Vedic way, whatever the people may understand, at least my understanding till today is this is the only liberal process of growth. Extremely liberal. There is no danda on your head. They give you the choice. After education, you have the choice whether you want to take it today, you want to do it after, you want to do it after many janmas. It's your choice. So the minute I have this tendency and I say, okay, today I can sleep, but tomorrow I can't allow because every day I want to do this, mind will say every day, na. एटलीस्ट जब तक ठंड है तब तक तो रोज ही मन करेगा ना 5 मिनट एक्स्ट्रा 5 ही तो मिनट है ना क्या फर्क पड़ता है but every day you have said 5 minutes see the compounding thought process in your mind that compoundingness he says Shastra gives the technique bring it by counter logic and this is up to the yoga school in Vedanta I said last class Vedanta starts from there for a person where a mind has already disciplined itself with these practices. So once you are already disciplined in it, Pratipaksha Bhavana then is used only to neutralize one odd strength of raga and dvesha that one has in oneself. Do you get the whole view? This is like, a runway, starting from the yoga to all the spiritual practice. By the time you are in Vedanta, you would have few strong raga dvesha in you which disturb your mind. To counter that raga dvesha, the technique used is pratipaksha. And pratipaksha means bringing in a stronger thinking and a reasoning process based on truth, based on Shastra, which also the mind cannot refute. So the minute I tell my mind, okay, you can sleep today, but remember, tomorrow you'll have more work hard. You'll have a harder resistance from you to get up. Do you want that? If I ask my mind, self-talk, the mind will say, आज ही इतना मुश्किल हो रहा है मुझे 5 मिनट को टेम्पटेशन को छोड़ना कल कहाँ आसान होने वाला है फिर और कल तक तो आदत और ज्यादा बढ़ जाएगी और कल ठंड भी ज्यादा बढ़ जाएगी तो दैट मीन्स व्हाट आई विल हैव 2 temptations to fight ठंड भी बढ़ेगी और आदत भी बिगड़ चुकी होगी ज्यादा so what is more wiser to stop my thing today better आज ही मैं उठ जाऊं no I'll so by the time you do so much your mind says okay let me just follow and the minute trust the best part about values is the minute we put ourselves into the shoes of our values, instantly you feel happier. You feel better, you feel lighter, you feel rejuvenated, you feel there is something else you feel from inside. Because you are falling in line with what is correct. Temptations take us away. So there's this inner resistance. But the minute that resistance you cross over and you start following what is to be done, automatically you feel better. And then next day, while the 5-minute thing comes up, your mind, you tell yourself now that, listen, I enjoyed it no afterwards. Therefore, let me hang on to that enjoyment. Let me try and resist this today because I'll enjoy it tomorrow. So Pratipaksha Bhavana is a very beautiful exercise. Again in Bhaj Govindam, there are many layers I have said to this. There is no doubt about this. Pratipaksha Bhavana, very layered it is, especially for serious students, those who are determined to their spiritual path. For them, it makes a big difference. More so in yoga because all your desires are rooted in ragadvesh. So for many of them, it will mean many, many layers of this. And Bhaj Govindam gives another verse there as a Pratipaksha Bhavana. The verse is, this is for those who are very, very serious, but I'm just giving it as an example. Those who may have probably joined ashrams and quit all life pursuits and dedicated entirely for their spiritual. The verse is actually meant for them, but it'll give you an idea of what it is. For because most of them were men, so the verse Shankara puts it is from the male point of view, but it is equally valid for the female point of view. And the verse is Nari Stanabhara Nabhi Desham Prishtva Maga Moha Vesham. He says, when your mind gets deluded seeing the form of a woman and the desire erupts in you to enjoy that, he says, instantly bring to your mind the counter of it. And what is the counter of it? The body is made up of only flesh and fluids and Drishtva Maga Moha Vesham Etana Mamsa Vikari. It is only a vikara of flesh. Etana Mamsa Vikari. Forgotten the last line. Etana Mamsa. Instantly, when you bring the counter, it is only a modification of flesh and bones. If you start seeing the body as a modification of flesh and bones, and another text like Vairagya Shatakam goes sometimes a little more deeper and puts in such things that give you a foul feeling. So what looked attractive first now becomes repelling. But this extreme thing, of course, is only necessary for very advanced, in that advanced only in the sense of very strong desires which are becoming obstacles. But the practice can be taken up to that layer. So people were told to have no fancy of it, no fanciful notions. Like I said, Shobhana Adhyasa ko kaatane ka tarika is Pratipaksha Bhavana. So wherever we have fanciful ideas, like I said, there was a time when I was, you just want to travel the world and etc. etc. So you almost feel that instead of feet, God gave you roller skates. It's like they just don't stay at one place. You want to travel everywhere and then to neutralize that thing, because traveling and doing, at the end of the day, you realize that you don't really gain as much as you lose. At least that's my Pratipaksha Bhavana. And I started seeing the pros and the cons, and you realize it's not so much valuable as I think it is. Of course, it has its value. It's nice, it's good, it's a change, but at the expense of what you lose. To my own mind, and suddenly you realize that it no longer is a need. I have to travel, I have to go out, I have to do, all that. So much of exasperation. If I don't get it, I'll become a miserable person. It loses the value to some extent, because now it's okay. It doesn't matter. Mil gaya to acha hai, nahi mila to koi baat nahi. It's okay, I'm fine. I don't lose anything. And the greatest thing, there are many examples that you can multiply yourselves in your own areas of your own weaknesses. And now come back to the portion of Tattva Bodha, Sadhana Chatushtayam, Viveka, based Vairagyam. And Vairagyam to base, you need strong Viveka. And that Viveka Shakti, it's to keep it ignited, is Pratipaksha, so that your Vairagyam remains available. So that no rag grows to such an extent that it topples you as a person. Of course, idealistic, but to the extent it is practiced, to that an extent it is useful. The technique cannot be deniable. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow on the same topic a little more, to wind it up, to consolidate it. So we will have Vairagyam consolidated a little more from Vedantic Drishti now, how it neutralizes it, because as severe as it seems in yoga, in Vedanta it is not. It's just a thought correction. But if I do not make it If I just leave it at thought correction, over the years I've realized most people just hear it and forget it. It's like Pratipaksha Bhavana is a technique, but I haven't seen anyone so far in my life come up and say, I utilized it. But to understand the value of it, maybe when we realize that the importance comes from where it is mentioned, and you see the whole vast applicability of it, maybe at moments when we need it, it will come up. When you need, there are many examples. Maybe tomorrow I'll take up a few maybe one practical example I can think of. Day-to-day life, say a difficult relation, and well, let me take it tomorrow. It's already some time. I'll take it. We'll end the class here now. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet